All right. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Happy New Year. What a wonderful day today is, 2021. We can finally say goodbye to the craziness of 2020, but taking Umar's lead from last Juma, I am looking at the blessings of 2020. And there were many, mashallah. I have a beautiful new daughter-in-law, and that is something I'm so happy about, mashallah. We have a wonderful addition to our family, and with her family is now our extended family. So that was probably our biggest blessing of 2020, mashallah. So I am definitely not complaining that 2020 was here, but I am looking forward to what 2021 brings. And inshallah, with the vaccine starting to come out, inshallah, 2021 will see us all together again in a common space for actual Jummah, inshallah. But let's get started with our Khatera today. Umar Rahman is going to be discussing preparing for the new year through self-examination. And then after the Khatera, Tesneem Alkiek, inshallah, I've said that correctly, will discuss New Year's resolutions. And the reminder will be about the opportunity to change and start afresh in 2021. We'll talk about the importance of turning inward to prepare for change and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala facilitates that process for us. Then we will discuss some good habits to incorporate, as well as some helpful tips to make sure they remain with us for life. So joining the gym and making dua, how great are those two things everyone says at the start of the new year. So Omar, I'll turn things over to you, and inshallah we'll get started.
Thank you, Sister Nicole. Appreciate it. We begin by praising Allah, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, and sending peace and blessings on the Prophet. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah al-Kareem, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask that Allah send his peace and blessings on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family, his companions, and those that follow him. So I wanted to say a little bit today, but I'm a lot more interested in hearing our next speaker, as well as all of you, kind of talk about this. In no way am I an authority on the subject. It's just some thoughts that come to mind related to approaching the new year, and a little bit of a review of last time as well on the importance of gratitude. And then we'll kind of hopefully have a nice discussion, and then we can kind of go from there. So I'd say I just recently came across, maybe a couple of days ago, a nice sign outside a church that said, "Count blessings, not problems." And this reminded me of the hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ tells us to look at those who have less than us when it comes to material things, and not those that have more, as a way to express appreciation to Allah for all the blessings that we have. And similarly, I had shared with you this interesting analogy that people do, where they, I think they took the study where they took everybody in the world and broke it down to a village, and basically, what that village would consist of. And when one looks at that village, one sees that we, living in the West with all the blessings that we have, would be not only that one person in the village, but probably more than that, maybe one person in many villages of 100. And so just with the fact that we have so many blessings in our lives, it gives us, it makes us realize that we have so much more of an obligation because of that. And I speak first and foremost to myself, as I said last time in the Jummah khutbah. Oftentimes we say, the person who says the khutbah, that I advise myself and all of you. So this is definitely advice to me. I definitely need this. In addition to that, I had mentioned some people that came to mind that really are sort of doing this in terms of relief work, establishing institutions, some people that I know personally as well as others, people of different backgrounds. Some had an opportunity to go to college, some not, and yet they're doing tremendous work in the world and are a great example for all of us of the need to really take the concerns of others and put that at the forefront. And that's something that, we're reminded of these days with COVID and so many lives that have been taken. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes this year a year that'll be much better in terms of, in that respect. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from any type of sickness from this this virus, and saves the rest of the world as well. And so, but we should be mindful of the fact that we should, in addition to kind of remembering our blessings, is also keep in mind that there are many people that are suffering, and they still are suffering, and we should put them at the forefront as well. So just something to keep in mind. So I spoke about gratitude last time, and some important spiritual practices, some things that I've done this year, learned from some others, and have helped me. And hopefully some of you can share some spiritual practices as well. Yeah, I would love to hear some of your practices as well. But something that I've been doing somewhat regularly this year is going on walks and runs sort of in nature, which is a wonderful thing. I know a lot of you do that. I think that's a wonderful thing to do. Try to make that a daily habit. I've tried to do that as best as I can, at least try to walk, 5 miles a day. Get those many steps at least. And then something else, a nice, really great spiritual practice that I mentioned last time was, of course, salawat, asking Allah to send peace and blessings on the Prophet. This is something that we're encouraged to do in the tradition. And I mentioned to you how Imam Sahib Sultan from Princeton, when he visited Swarthmore, he kind of mentioned how instrumental this was in his own life, particularly in college when he was going through some depression and some difficulties. He said that this really had a transformative impact on him. And so that's some great advice that he shared for the students, and we can take that as well. And I was listening to another chaplain, Adam Kelwick. He was on this podcast with Mufti Abdul. It's called Mind Trap. Mufti Abdul interviews some interesting guests. And in this particular podcast, he was sharing this point as well, and saying that when it comes to salawat, certain spiritual openings only happen from this. So he was really encouraging this and making a point of this. So that would be the second thing that I would encourage myself and all of you to try to incorporate into your daily routine, is to make an effort to say Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, some type of salawat. There's so many, you can just Google them and you'll come up with a whole list. And that'll be something that'll really, inshallah, benefit you. And then just being in touch with good scholars, teachers, even in current times, I guess it would more be listening to good scholars and teachers. Hopefully, when things improve, one can do so in person. So that'll be very important as well. And I would say here, when it comes to spiritual teachers, Muslims as well as others, I recently, this past year, I had to start a bereavement group at the college. And I approached it with some trepidation because I'd never done it before, but I found some really good resources. In fact, my sister, she had recommended David Kessler, who's done some great work in this field. And then as far as a Muslim who's dealt with this, it would be Chaplain Sundus Kholoki, who came to Swarthmore. And I know some of you attended that event. So those two, I think, really helped me in terms of kind of having some good resources in starting a bereavement group, which benefited me personally as well. And so those were some practices that come to mind. I also mentioned how at our Interfaith Center, we oftentimes share practices the students do, as well as the advisors. And one of the students shared a nice spiritual practice of, from the Catholic tradition, I believe it's called the Examen, where one thinks back to the blessings that one's had in their past day, or the divine presence that they've noticed throughout the day. And that can kind of extend backwards as well. It doesn't have to be just a day, but the past week and whatnot. And so that would be a nice practice. And then I also shared a nice practice of a colleague who, while going for her morning run, says that she remembers everybody who's in her life, and she makes a prayer for them, which is really a beautiful thing to do. So that would be something to keep in mind as well. And one could add other things to that and combine these practices. Maybe make istighfar, ask Allah for forgiveness when one thinks back in their past week for any mistakes that were made. So that would be a good thing to do as well. As we know, we're told that all of the children of Adam commit sins, and the best of those who commit sins are those who make tawbah. And so there's a nice hadith in which the Prophet tells us this. Now, as we go along, I don't want to say too much today, but when we look at the Prophet's life, we do see, when it comes to this idea of muhasabah and, I guess, engaging in introspection, self-examination, we see this both before revelation as well as after revelation. And we should also keep in mind that even before revelation came, the Prophet ﷺ lived a pious life, right, where his nafs was in check. And I guess nafs here, you could say, would be human needs. I think I was mentioning how I recently completed this class on mental health with Dr. Human Keshavarzi of the Khalil Center in Chicago. And I really learned quite a bit. And I'm by no means an expert, but he shared some interesting articles, went over a lot of very valuable lessons. And one of the things I remembered was something that Imam Ghazali speaks about, which is the idea of the psyche and dividing it into the nafs, the ego self, if you will, the aql, the intellect and cognition, and the ruh, the soul and the spirit. And what Dr. Keshavarzi said that in amongst a lot of Muslim psychologists or psychotherapists, they've kind of added, and I guess just modern day psychotherapists, they've also added the idea of ihsas, emotions as well, and how all of these things collectively impact the qalb, the spiritual center, the spiritual heart. And what's interesting is how that this can kind of correspond to the body, mind, and spirit sort of division. And people even say that, when we talk about that famous hadith, which divides Islam into Islam, Iman, and Ihsan, that this also can kind of correlate to that in a general sense, like the idea of body, mind, and spirit. And I guess all actions essentially deal with all three elements of the psyche, but in general, they kind of say that there's kind of a particular focus on each. And when you say this, in terms of Islam, you would be looking at more of prayer at its very basic level, right? Obviously, prayer is going to correspond to these other avenues as well, the other aspects of the psyche, like the aql and the ruh as well. But at a very basic level, just kind of stopping what you're doing and taking the time to remember God is a way to kind of control the nafs. And so just moving along, so we were told that we should restrain the nafs, and Imam Ghazali uses the analogy of a horse, like an unruly horse, and how it needs to be restrained. And that was an interesting analogy, and I think it may come from the Greeks, but the idea that one has to kind of be mindful of the nafs and not be controlled by it, just like you would when riding a horse, need to control the horse and not be controlled by the horse. And it's important to keep in mind that when it comes to these things, I don't think we would say that there's anything inherently evil in these human needs that we all have, but they should be dealt with and satisfied within the bounds of the sacred law, or at least we should try to do that. And when we do that, that's when we can really fulfill the other elements as well. And so that's something that comes to mind, that you wouldn't deprive the horse that you have of food, but at the same time, you wouldn't overfeed it as well. So that's what we're encouraged to do, is to have this balance. And so as we approach the new year, I would say that we should try to honestly look at ourselves and look at our own weaknesses. Of course, we all have different weaknesses or different flaws that different people suffer from in varying degrees. So we should look at ourselves when it comes to these nafsani elements, like lust, desire for food, money, wealth, fame, always needing to be right, weaknesses related to anger and hatred, envy or pride, whatever the case may be. We should try to, look at ourselves honestly and then accordingly address these things, right? And then we should do that for the other elements or aspects of the psyche as well. Try to nourish ourselves intellectually as well as spiritually. And so spiritually, we could add a dhikr or some type of words to do on a daily basis in addition to the 5 prayers. We could also, as I mentioned last time, there are some great advice that people give in terms of just in general to have trust in Allah, and also to give shukr as well as have trust in Allah, and that, so one is able to deal with good times as well as bad times. Also always remembering the mercy of Allah and seeking istighfar, seeking Allah's forgiveness. Finally, in closing, we should really keep in mind that as we attach ourselves to Allah and truly become servants of Allah, then only then will our nafs really fall into place, right? And we're encouraged in Islam not to become Abdul Hawa or Abdul Dinar. There is that hadith in which the Prophet tells us how one can take, their nafs and there's even a Quranic verse related to this, but one can take their inner passions as an idol, if you will, right? And one can do that with money and material things as well. So we're encouraged to become true servants of Allah, to keep everything in balance. And finally, we should keep in mind that we should approach things in a nuanced way, right? So knowing the distinction, I read somewhere, somebody was saying that you have to know the distinction between pride versus confidence and self-esteem, the difference between sort of, some people will need to control the pursuit of fame and other things, while other people may have a weakness in the other respect and not put themselves out enough. And so some people might be bold but too abrasive and not respectful with others, whereas other people may struggle with kind of standing for what is right. So ultimately, we have to just find the perfect balance, and we find that in the example of the Prophet ﷺ, and that's why we're encouraged to reflect on his life. And we should always remember that we're going to fall short, as I mentioned that hadith, kulli bani Adam, sorry, I don't have the whole hadith, but kulli bani Adam khata'un wa khayra khata'in at-tawwabin. All of the children of Adam sin, and the best of those who sin are the ones who make tawbah and seek repentance from God. So, inshallah, look forward to listening to our next speaker, and kind of encouraging myself and all of us to really do muhasabah, look at ourselves, and really try to make some good New Year's resolutions that we can go forward with in the coming year.
I mean, thank you so much, Omar, mashallah. Fantastic. Before we bring on Sister Tesneem, Sister Tahia wanted to speak to the community, inshallah. Do you want to do that now, Tahia, or would you like to wait for after Sister Tesneem?
I can, since you already called me, let me do it quickly. I just want to take literally a few minutes since it's the 1st of January, just to sort of greet everybody. So I even wrote something so I can. Assalamu alaikum. So the board of the Mainline Muslim Society would like to wish a year filled with barakah, health, and inner and outer peace to our community, neighbors, and families. We wanted to thank you all who have participated in our Khatera and community and dialogue program in the past year. Alhamdulillah, we have been blessed with great learning and engagement provided by many of our community members who are scholars, professional activists, etc. Also, thank you all who volunteered already for our committees, and we invite others to inquire about the ways to get engaged and support our community work, inshallah. You can always email our info at Mainline Muslim Society or reach out to any one of us. We hope to continue developing our educational programs for adults, youth, and children. In addition to our Storytime Cafe that is already up and running, we are working hard to bring you new programs, inshallah. So please keep your eyes open for our announcements for our programs for children and teenagers, and they're called Virtually Muslim. For now, they're going to be online, and we're very excited about this and have a lot of interest already in these. So we'll be sending flyers and announcements within the next few days, inshallah. And so also, if we don't have your contact information, please either put it in chat or reach out to us so we can add you to our mailing list and keep you updated on all of our programs. And all of this is still continuing online, alhamdulillah, for this, but we are working hard on getting actual space where we can be together and do some even deeper work, inshallah. So that was it. Thank you so much. And please send us questions and suggestions or anything you would like us to improve and keep this building, inshallah. Thank you.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khair, Tahia, mashallah. The board works so tirelessly, mashallah, to try to bring engaging and exciting programming during these virtual days. So, mashallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward all of you for your efforts, inshallah. Sister Tesneem, let's turn things over to you, inshallah. Welcome.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. It's good to be with you guys all. And that was actually the perfect transition, talking about muhasabah. I love when days like these, January 1st, fall on a Friday, because it's an opportunity to sort of really perfectly plan for the year ahead, inshallah. So I want to talk a little bit about, well, number one, sort of that self-reflection muhasaba, and you've made my work a little easier here, so hopefully won't have to go into much detail. And talk about how that then relates to our resolutions of what the year ahead is going to look like. And so really, this is an opportunity, and I think the past 9 months really have been an opportunity to self-reflect a lot and to and speak honestly from my own experiences, having not just, I don't think I would call it extra time, but more so alone time, where you have plenty more time to be with your thoughts, despite maybe being busier with having more family at home or more responsibilities, you name it. But you've had this now about 9 months of just more time to really be feeling your presence as someone is by themselves. And for me, it was really just a push to think to myself, like, whatever goals I had before COVID or whatever goals I have now, who am I doing it for? Because a lot of times I had realized that a lot of the goals I had set for myself weren't necessarily for myself, but they were for family, they were for my community, they were for others. And it was really just an opportunity, not that that was necessarily a bad thing, but for me to think to myself, like, why do I do what I do? And why do I want to continue down a certain path or the goals that I have outlined? And a lot of it, I mean, really times of spending just so much alone time made me think to myself, like, again, what's the purpose of doing anything? Why am I trying to get a degree? Why am I trying to, participate in this organization or do any of these things? And it was just this sort of like, at times I kept thinking, tried to shake it off and think to myself, well, it's all going to pass, and we're going to get busy again. And I stopped myself. We don't want to bury or to sort of like cover our thoughts with that busyness, because that really is like a spiritual disease that I think a lot of us succumb to, that you want to be able to engage in that time to reflect and to think about why you do what you do. And so many times throughout our lives, we're going from day to day, week to week, we try to keep ourselves so busy that we don't think about why we're doing what we're doing. And so I think that this is a golden opportunity for those of us who think of the first of the year, think of January as an opportunity for change, of resolutions. Think about why you've been doing what you're doing. And coming in the next few months, that's only going to, you're going to still have plenty of time to be able to do that. And so when you think about resolutions, it's one aspect of it is really thinking about why you're here as a human being, as someone who is submitted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as a Muslim. And you're thinking to yourself that, what is my purpose in life? And that and as our sole responsibility, primary responsibility as Muslims is submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we're here to worship him. How does everything that I do in relation to my family, in relation to my friends and my colleagues, in relation to the work and the commitments that I've dedicated myself to, how does that relate to my worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Because if you're not thinking about death now, when death is really enveloping our communities and societies, there's very few times that you're going to be pushed to think like this, and to take that opportunity to really think about it. Why am I doing what I'm doing? And when that time approaches me, whether it's through COVID, whether it's through any other accident or the reality of what life is, when death is going to hit you, are you going to be able to look back and say that I was able to meet the goals that I had prepared, that everything that I did was for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So it's really this time of reflection as you start to think about, what am I going to do? Because you don't really know what to do. You're not going to know what to plan, what to change, if you don't know yourself, if you don't know why you do what you do. And so really thinking about not just what you do, but also what are you good at? Thinking about the positive things. This past 9 months, I've learned that, I actually enjoy being alone, or I can, that this has been a really good opportunity for me to start incorporating reflection in my day. I've never been that kind of person. For those who know me, I'm always on the go. Like, I try to keep myself as busy as possible. I don't like to take breaks. Go. That's my personality. Everyone has different personalities. And so what I've come to love about the past, several months is that I actually deeply enjoy having 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is, how many minutes a day that I can dedicate. And so I found that, maybe this is a strength that I can cultivate. And I want to be able to work on making that a committed practice. And so think about your personality. Are you, there's so many personality tests you can take out there. Learn more about yourself. Learn more about what your weaknesses are so that you can improve them. And so really take those moments to think to yourself, the past 9 months, what have I been really good at? And what do I want to, and I want to make sure that I want to keep up with that. So if you've been really good at being patient with kids at home, I mean, I don't know how you guys are doing it, mashallah. That's a feat. It's a huge feat. And you want to keep that up. And maybe you want to make it even better. Think about really just your day-to-day. Take notes, sit down and journal. Okay, like I did this, I was great at this. Really take a moment to be proud of yourself. I think that's also extremely important, because if you're like me, a lot of times you're too hard on yourself. That should have been better at this. I could have done more. I'm wasting my time. That was me all the time. And in the process, you sort of forget to think that, no, I've been able to accomplish a lot, alhamdulillah. And that is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, despite everyone being so tremendously tested these times, whether it's economically or it's health or safety, whatever it is, the fact that you can say that, hey, I was able to get something done, I was able to do this, and I did it great, that's a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's an opportunity to not only now sit and think, well, I'm great at this and I'm happy about that, but also is an opportunity to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that blessing. So think about what you're good at and how you can maintain that. And think about some things that, you know, I kind of snapped at my spouse one too many times. Maybe I should work on that. What are ways that I can think about, you know, doing better? Whether it was, you know, I really wanted to give back to my community in different ways, that there was opportunities for me to help with community service, with food drives, but I didn't. Maybe that's something I want to work on. So taking really that moment of sort of pairing the two, when you think about what is my purpose in life and who do I want to be? What on my deathbed, as that, you know, as those moments are flashing by, I want to be able to look back and say, I have something to present my case to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that I was able to do all of these things, and I'm proud that I can say that I tried my best. And you also want to think about, okay, now let's live in the reality. What am I really good at and what do I want to improve? So thinking about these things. But again, in order to be able to do that, you need to know yourself. And so how are the ways you come to know yourself? There are plenty of ways, and there are ways that are unique to you. You know, all of us know how we know ourselves, that we have our own personal ways. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says in the Quran that he says 2 ayahs back to back, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu taqullaha wal tanzur nafsum ma qaddamat lighad. That number one, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, be conscious of him in everything that you do, and think about and prepare for what you are going to present tomorrow here, implying the day of judgment. What you're going to present, as I mentioned, sort of on your deathbed. What are you going to be ready? What are the files that you're going to have, the records that you're going to be able to present? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, be wary of him in everything that you do. Be conscious. All of your goals, all of your activities, what you're doing now in your day-to-day life, there's no divide between work life, personal life, religious life. It's all one and the same in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as it should be in our eyes as well. And so what are you preparing for tomorrow? What's the very next ayah? Don't be like those who forgot Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so they forgot themselves. In preparing for what you're going to present to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he makes that direct connection, that in order to be able to even prepare for what's coming next, you need to know yourself. And how do you know yourself? You know, don't be like those that when you forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you forget yourself. So alternatively, when you know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know yourself. What does that mean? If you begin to learn just one, you can choose. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, you know, numerous attributes, numerous things that we can relate to. If you think to choose one thing, the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-wadud, for example, he's the most loving. How does knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most loving, how does that help you learn about yourself? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most loving in that we know how forgiving he is and how much he wants the best for us. How does that relate to how well I want the best for everyone else? How do I love everyone else? And really, this is, I think, very shallow the way I'm describing it now, but when you get into the examples of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-wadud, you really start to realize, like, what does that mean in my own life? And to give you a very recent personal example, I have a very close friend who has been struggling with a problem for months, if not years on end. And I've been telling them time and time again, listen, you're really treading down dangerous waters. Like, you really need to fix this bad habit. If you don't fix it, you're going to find yourself in a really bad place. Months, day in and day out. And I kept warning and warning, please stop what you're doing. It's not going to end well. This is not just about your own, like, your spiritual health. This is about your career, your education, your family. You're putting it all at risk for this really one silly bad habit. And a few weeks ago, what happened? Exactly what I had predicted, that, hey, you keep up with this bad habit and you're going to find in this place. And that friend came up to me and they said that, like, they basically were so embarrassed to admit that, hey, I'm here. And I remember at that moment thinking to myself, I warned you, I told you, time and time again, I came to you and I said, stop. It's so simple, stop. Here are all the different things. Here are all the methods that can help you stop, to reorient, to set new goals. These are all the things that you can be doing. Yet you continue. And I sort of just, I was flushed, like, quiet. This is everything I was dreading. I love this person. I only want the best for them. Everything I was dreading, it came to fruition. And at that moment, I thought to myself, time and time again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what happens is that He warns us time and time again, do not do this. This is for your own benefit. I want the best for you. Stop doing what you're doing. And what do? We continue and we continue and we continue until when we hit that low point and we're desperate and we turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we're crying, we're begging also, please just give the health to my mother. Please just get me out of this tribulation. Please, I really screwed up. Allah, please forgive me. And what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do? He forgives us. And it's incredible when and after that experience, I thought to myself, wow, knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most forgiving, despite that He tells us time and time and time again, who am I to get angry at this person who was struggling? Who am I to judge this person for not being able to overcome that something that I saw was a very simple, problem? And by knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was the most forgiving, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants the best for us, I was able to think about, what does that say about me? What does it say about my reaction that I almost snapped, that I just was so frustrated, like, but I told you, come on. And I stopped and I caught myself and think to myself, I want to be able to embody what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala time and time gives to us. And this is just one simple thing of knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine knowing all of the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and deeply, deeply connecting to them. And thinking about how does that relate to your life? How are you able to be the most merciful, the most patient, the kindest, the most just to people around you? And you could choose one attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and your entire life you wouldn't be able to even get close to it. So think about, just choose one aspect of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Think about one thing that you want to better resemble, you want to really work on, and think about how that attribute manifests in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. So knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in order to know yourself, and based off of what you know about yourself and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is setting those goals, really those long-term goals. So a lot of this is like this time for reflection. But again, it's a positive reflection, an opportunity to think of change. Don't think of it as something that is burdensome. That this is, you know what, I'm gonna look to the future, and I'm going to look back, and I'm going to be happy. And that really brings, I think, me to the second point that I wanted to make, was just that it's a lot about it is this mental change, this mental preparation. There are two ways at looking at the next 6 months, 9 months, a year. We don't know what's going to happen. We can think to ourselves and say, you know what, I am certain that the next 3 months are uncertain for me. I have no doubt that the next 3 months, things are going to be fluctuating. There's no guarantee in anything. We don't know what's going to happen. We can be so certain that that's a reality, and it is. Or we can change our mindset and we can think to ourselves, you know what I'm going to be certain about? I'm going to be certain that in 3 months or 6 months or 9 months, I'm going to look back, and no matter, despite the ups and downs, I'm going to have achieved this one goal, this one resolution that I have. So really, it's about getting into that mental, that hyping yourself up. Sometimes it's just hyping yourself up and thinking, you know what, there's two ways I can look at things. I can think of things as, things are uncertain, and it is nerve-wracking. It's not to say that, no, you're not allowed to be nervous, you're not allowed to have anxiety. It's about how do you reconceptualize those uncertainties in a way that empowers you. And so think about it as that, you know what, things are uncertain, But you know what? I know for a fact that come May, my goal is I'm trying to graduate. So whatever, I'm trying to do whatever it takes. And I want to be able to look back and say, you know what? COVID was a very difficult time. I haven't seen family in a long time. People are really suffering, but you know what? I had a few goals in mind, and I'm a better human being. I'm a better servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm a better community member because of it. And that's what you really want to focus on. What are you certain of? And what can you be certain of? And what can you do to work towards those goals? And I think the last part then is sort of like the process of implementing goals. And if there's anything that I can share, and I think is really the secret to life, the magic recipe or whatever it is. And of course, because it's a secret to life, we know that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ himself predicted this way before any of us, that the best of actions are those that are small but consistent. And that the most beloved of actions, Allah, the most beloved of actions, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, are those that are small but consistent. And really every time I think about this, because I sort of live my life on this trajectory of like, no, you just got to be consistent, just consistent. And then years into my life, I come across this hadith and I think to myself, this is really just incredible. This is what Islam is all about, that it's telling you, it's giving you the keys to just be the most incredible human being. You want to, the most incredible human being, whether that is, in your spiritual health, your mental health, your professional health, everything. That the principles that Islam embodies is applicable universally in every aspect of your life. And this is really one of those golden keys in Islam, that you're small and consistent, you'll make it so far. And so when you think about these resolutions, think about your goals, think about your career goals, your family goals. It's not limited to just one. It's not like, I just need to be spiritually healthier. Your health in every aspect is going to be interrelated. And so so really focus on this holistic aspect, that whatever goals you do set, that you do in a way that is small, consistent, and always start off the smallest you can start off. So if for example, you want to start praying 5 times a day, start off making sure you pray, one prayer every single day. And what happens is that you have these, what ends up becoming one habit of praying Fajr every single day. For example, say you want, that's the prayer you want to start off with because you're an early bird and you know that for a fact you won't have distractions at that time and you'll be able to pray Fajr. You'll be surprised at how that habit becomes a keystone habit where it transforms your entire life. That just by praying Fajr every single day, you're not even praying any other prayer, you're just praying Fajr every single day, how suddenly you start off on a good day. You're like, I prayed Fajr, I feel good, I met my goal. Dhuhr time is going to roll around and you think to yourself, I really want to just, keep up this feeling. It feels really great. Let me see if I can, get in Dhuhr. And then Asr is going to roll around and you have that same, you're going to be really swimming on that pride or whatever that goal that you've been able to meet. So don't really think of like, I'm only just praying Fajr. That's not enough. I'm still not a good human being. I'm a terrible Muslim. Don't think of it like that. But always think about how that is a stepping stone to really becoming the best version of yourself. So being small and consistent. And then I think also one thing that is really helpful to remember is that the Prophet ﷺ said that faith is like a garment. That faith is like clothing in the sense that once you wear it a few times, you got to wash it. It's going to wear out. And that this is, I think, really important in terms of our mentality of moving forward, of really keeping ourselves pushing, is the reality that you're going to have ups and downs, and that's okay. That I grew up thinking, you have downs, you have a problem. There's something wrong with your iman. There's something wrong with your faith if you're not always at your 100%. But that's the Prophet, peace be upon him, himself, he said that, that it's like a garment. It's going to have ups and downs. That's the reality. And so when you know that, when you're at those lows in your life, you're not thinking to yourself, this is a problem with my relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or this is a problem with my iman. Maybe I'm not believing, maybe there's something missing, and you're sort of bringing all of those problems back to yourself. You can stop and think to yourself, you know what, today was a bad day. That doesn't mean tomorrow has to be. That tomorrow can be a better day, that there's ups and downs, and tomorrow's going to be an up, and I'm going to continue to try harder. And so thinking about who you are, where you want to go, and really having that optimistic outlook, but also acknowledging the reality that there are going to be tough times and challenges, and that's the reality of life. So don't be too hard on yourself. Really push to just, if there's only one thing you can do for the rest of the year, that would be an incredible feat. think to yourself, what does that end goal look like? What do I want to be able to look back in December and think to myself, you know what? I was only able to do this one thing, but that one thing changed my entire life. That it proved to me that I can do something, I can change. And then the next year, you just build on. It's really just an incredible cycle. And that will all build up to that moment when you are prepared to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you can proudly say that, you know what, I did everything, I did my best, and here's my case, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy and forgiveness, and to enter his Jannah. And with that, I'll conclude. Jazakumullah khairan.
MashaAllah, Tesneem. Wallahi, jazakallah khair. It was really fantastic to hear those reminders, especially incorporated in Islam. You know, a lot of times we talk about our New Year's resolutions and they're things related to dunya, but knowing that even our beautiful faith of Islam talks about resolutions of these types for the dunya and the akhirah. So, mashallah, jazakallah khair for the guidance and the reminders, mashallah. So would anyone like to share some New Year's resolutions that they have? Anything that they wanted to talk about where you've got plans for this year? Everyone has the ability to unmute themselves. I know for me, one of my big goals is looking for a new career direction. I've been in the financial services sector for the last nearly 15 years, but I'm looking to apply my talents now to either the nonprofit sector or to something along my own business. So, alhamdulillah, it's scary, but exciting at the same time. And for my akhirah, I'm looking to really just increase my daily worship practices, whether it's extra or extra dua, on a daily basis, just starting to increase all of that. So incorporating fasting more often. I fast now pretty regularly, but in a more thoughtful way, in a more calculated way, that I want to start doing those things. So inshallah, make dua for me on both those counts. And I'd like to share?
Assalamu alaikum. This is Aisha. I'm new to Bloomington in the sense I just started my graduate studies this fall. So my New Year's resolution would be on the spiritual side. I would like to be consistent with my prayers, especially praying my prayers on time, and at least ensuring that every day I spend at least 15 minutes on learning something new related to Deen, and at least read an ayah every day in the Quran along with the meaning. And on the professional or academic side, I would like to learn programming, because that is something I'm new to, and all my relevant courses are very programming intensive. That is why I'm dedicating hours during my break. And the other thing apart from this is, I would like to have more of engagements with the Islamic community in Bloomington, wherein it would, I staying away from the family. I'm an international student from India. It would help me stay connected with my Deen with frequent reminders for me to stay on track. So these are my New Year's resolutions. So inshallah, pray for me that Allah gives me that strength and steadfastness to achieve what I want to and learn what I want to, and to lead a life that Allah wants us to live.
MashaAllah. I mean, Aisha, thank you so much for sharing that. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make those resolutions come true for you and make them easy for you to obtain, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair, sister.
Wa yakum, inshallah. Anyone else want to share?
Assalamu alaikum. This is Maha.
Wa alaikum assalam, Sister Maha.
And I just want to say, Sister Aisha, so this group right here is based in Pennsylvania, but it's lovely that you joined. And Sister Aisha is from my town. So
Yeah.
amenity resolutions, Aisha, and my
Uh,
own, I'm hoping to learn and practice seclusion, which is something that might be challenging for a super social, very busy, and an extrovert like me. So I'm hoping to learn seclusion and khalwa and practice it and actually giving it a try. May Allah accept.
I
And
mean,
thank
I get that social butterfly aspect of life. Seclusion is challenging at best for those of us that thrive off time with people. So it has not been easy having to keep away from people, and I look forward to these Zoom meetings on Fridays. And I think it's probably why my harping on turning cameras on is so insistent, because I miss faces. I miss connecting with people. So alhamdulillah, Sister Maha, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make that easy for you, inshallah. It is a challenge for people who thrive on that. Anyone else like to share? We still have some time. So anyone else want to share their resolutions, their thoughts?
Sister Sophia shared something in the chat. If you, I don't know
Yes,
if you
that's
got
true. Okay, you're right. I'm sorry. Thank you. So Sister Sophia wanted to share that she would like to not hold back with anything that she can do for the community or the world that could make a difference, no matter how difficult. MashaAllah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make that a true thing for you, Sister Sophia, with all that you already do, mashallah, for the community. I find that it would be amazing you doing more, mashallah. You do so much now and so much good and khair, mashallah. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase your hasana for all that you do, mashallah. Sister Sophia is a gem in our community, mashallah. She is silently helping so many people, mashallah, behind the scenes. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to give you the resources to do that, inshallah. So I'll give a few more minutes for anyone else before we make our closing dua. Well, it's good. Yes, I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. Actually, I wanted to know that, is there a Jummah khutbah that is happening that I can attend online? Because I seriously wanted to attend in person, but given I do not have a car and it's winter, so it's kind of hard for me to visit the Bloomington Islamic Center. So I thought if there is an online khutbah that happens along with the prayers, I can actually join and stay connected.
Well, Sister Aisha, we do this every Friday. So we don't incorporate the Salah because with the virtual, it's our understanding that it's not actually Jummah. So this replaces the Jummah. So if anyone has any resources that they can share with Sister Aisha, perhaps you can send it to her in the chat. As we're based in Pennsylvania, I'm not familiar with what's happening in your area, but it sounds like you're near Sister Ma, and perhaps she can provide you with some resources, inshallah.
Yeah, sure, sister. Thank you. And I also had another thing. Yeah, I was kind of in my winter break, and I had time which I wanted to dedicate for the volunteering activities. So, Sister Maha, is there anything that I could do from home, or any kind of contribution that would help? I have learned. I know how to read Quran in Arabic, though it's not my mother tongue, but Alhamdulillah, I have attended few, Islamic centers that teach back in my home country. So I pretty much can recite Quran in Arabic. So any kind of volunteering activity that I could do, which would make me feel closer to Deen, and which would make my, break productive.
So, Sister Aisha, I would suggest that you go to our website, www.mainlinemuslims.com, and fill out our Contact Us form. We can put you in touch with our board. they can provide you with volunteer opportunities. And I just want to double check. I make sure that I gave
Is
everybody.
it, could you please repeat the website address for me?
Yes. Give me one moment.
Yeah, thank you.
www.mainlinemuslims,
Is it mainline?
Mainline Muslim Society.
Mhm.
I had a momentary brain snap. I'll put it in the chat for you.
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome. So www.mainlinemuslimsociety.org.
.org, is it? Yeah, sure. I
Nicole,
made a note of it.
Thank you, Aisha. Good luck with finding these, and we hope to hear from you. It's wonderful that you join us. I just wanted to say thank you, Tesneem, for being with us today. Tesneem is, mashallah, finishing her dissertation, so I keep bugging her to see if she can join us. She's almost done, so and I'm very grateful that you found time to join us today. We very much appreciate it.
MashaAllah, thank you for taking the time out.
Happy to be here with you guys. Alhamdulillah, almost there, inshallah, and then you'll have plenty more time from me.
MashaAllah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for you, inshallah. So thank you everyone for your participation today. This was a wonderful way to start off the new year. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring us much barakah in this new year. May He keep us close together. May He keep all of us safe and healthy. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us to be closer to Him. And may He bring our communities together again so that we can worship Him as He's requested, inshallah. Ameen. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for all our new faces, our old faces for being here, mashallah. Brother Umar, for your amazing Khatera, mashallah. Thank you so much, Sister Tesneem. Thank you so much. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring us back together again next Friday, inshallah. Ameen.
Inshallah, Ameen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jazakallah khair.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.